light, a house of light. And so we would pray for each other, and we would pray things such as this. And sometimes we'd be on the phone live, sometimes we'd text each other, but we would pray like this. Dear God, dear ancient mothers, cosmic energy of oneness and love and light. This is my prayer. I ask at this time that you bless my beloved friend Renita, and we ask that you enlarge her kingdom, whether that is in her abundance of her health, her abundance of her wealth, the abundance of her knowledge, the abundance of her organization. I ask that you send your angels and guiding light around her, be above her, below her, around her, and within her. We know that you, the energy of wonderment, is here to guide her in the next promising steps of her life. I ask this on behalf of a deep, deep, abiding friendship, this cosmic energy that we have with each other. I ask that you guide her throughout this rest of this day and let her know how much she is loved and appreciated by all those that she has touched. I ask that she understands how much she has enriched my life thoroughly and completely and broadened it and deepened it. I am so thankful for her. I thank you, God. I thank you, Lord. I thank you, cosmic intelligence, for guiding her during this day today. And so it is. Amen. So we would say these enriching prayers.
And so there was a loose format, actually, because the tabernacle prayer is actually an ancient prayer where the priests would go into the tabernacle, and it was so holy that they had these stations or whatever that they had to go to, and so we kind of modified it and we made it our tabernacle prayer. And so I think when we first started out, Hope would pray, and I would basically affirm her prayer, usually saying I receive it, and then say some of exactly what she said and then add to it. And so sometimes we would spend a lot of time kind of in this prayer until we kind of were tired, and then other times it was just an exchange, just of upliftment, just to let us know, the other know, I'm thinking of you, I love you, I'm covering you in prayer. And so even that is one of those things where me as a believer, grounded in my relationship with Jesus Christ, I don't feel anything about my sister Hope praying about cosmic intelligence and those kind of things. I just open up my arms and I accept, okay, thank you, Lord. And it works. And it's been marvelous. It's been marvelous. And so I think the other piece of it is that Hope is healthy and mature enough just to recognize that there is nothing wrong with us having differences of opinion or experiencing things differently. Like, there's no offense, there is no kind of judgment, or like, I don't know if you guys have people that you have a conversation with and then you get off the phone and you got to check in with somebody and be like, was that okay? What happened with that? Like, I don't feel that. Like, our relationship has a certain level of safety in it where instead of having to verify or check in with someone, you just know kind of like the spirit of the intention. Like, Hope would never, even if I get dinged by an interaction, and I can't count the number of times I've been dinged by an interaction with her, I would know intrinsically that it came from a place that did not have any harmful intent. And so, I mean, I think that what we have is actually quite rare. And I would encourage you all really to open yourself up, to be the kind of rare acceptance that we provide each other, so that it will show up in your life. I mean, because if you're not that, then it's not coming to you. If you're not trustable, you're probably not going to get trustable folks coming to you, right? And so you have to kind of get yourself in this place of being what it is you want. If you want someone that is actually deliberate and has integrity when they talk to you, someone that is transparent, someone that will reflect back to you an accurate reflection of yourself, that's what you have to be. And so I'm so grateful for Hope and who she is. And I'm grateful for the learning that I get from being around her. And so when I pray for hope, it might look something like, dear Lord, thank you so much today for hope. I thank you for her family today. And so I ask that you would bless Paul and bless Greta and bless the girls, Lord. Be a hedge of protection around about them. Lord, I just ask that today that you would enlarge Hope's territory. I pray for a hedge of protection around the Hope Interfaith Center and everyone going in and coming out. I pray for every staff member at HIC. And I ask that you, Father God, would enrich the territory that you have given them. And I just ask that you would give wisdom and that you would give resources and that you would provide for them everything they have need of. I pray, Father God, that today that Hope would walk into the clearing that you have set up for her. I ask, Father God, that she would speak truth and that it would give love and it would give life, and that those that hear it would have their lives changed from the inside out. Lord, I just thank you that you're faithful and we can trust you. And so I pray for health. I pray for integrity. I pray for safety. I pray for all of the things, Lord, that will allow her to be in the role that you have placed her in at HIC, Lord. And I bless your holy name. Amen. And so I think it's just pretty sweet that when I haven't heard from Hope, like I carry her with me. Before we got on the call, she giggled because I was in Mankato this weekend picking up some things from a storage unit and really kind of saying, you know what, this may be the last time I'm in Mankato, and we were not able to connect. But on my way out, I called and left a message and just told her I'm leaving. It's kind of bittersweet, but I'm taking you with me. And I think that we have people in our lives that are remembrance stones. We have stones, we have stuff. And I grew up, I cut my teeth kind of in some ways in Mankato in terms of learning just a number of things about being a Black woman and having a relationship with powerful white women, right? And so Hope is one version of the many kind of relationships that I developed while I was in Mankato, and hers is clearly the healthiest and the one that I'm most thankful for. And so I can choose to focus my energies on her relationship, or some of the ones that, left me with scars, or some of the ones that took my legs out from under me. But I don't choose to do that. I choose to focus on that relationship. And maybe that is what I spent my time in Mankato for. Yeah.
I want to say two things. One of the things to look for and to understand, and I think I read this someplace or listened to it on an iPad, is that when you take a word and you stick it into consciousness, because consciousness is just consciousness, and you have a word and you stick it into consciousness, there's a mechanics to those words. I liked that when they said there's a mechanics to those words. So we can use a word like when she and I talk, when she says, I don't know, that feels a bit noisy to me. And let's unpack that a little bit. She's not trying to convince me. She's not saying I'm wrong. She's not even saying she's right. But when she uses the word, that just feels a little noisy to me. Let's unpack it. Or we use in our words also, if you just heard Renita talk, is that I don't experience it that way as you do, Hope. That's interesting. You are experiencing it this way. Can I tell you how I'm experiencing it? So what I've learned from Renita, as well as when I do read these spectacular books like Untamed, and so many others like Braving the Wilderness, there's a certain mechanics to words. It will either lift you up, or it'll tear you down, or it'll make you feel like you're wrong, but there is a way that we can use words in our friendships, in our relationships with our significant others, that if you think of it, that there's a mechanics to the words that we put into that consciousness. And that's when Renita was saying, I choose not to be around a relationship that takes my legs from underneath me. Because it's it's too hard to grow back legs sometimes. And so we have to call each other when our legs have been taken out from underneath us, And I just said to Paul just the other day, because I've had a couple experiences, and I'm going to be bold and brave to talk about that. I received something just this week, and I was going to call you up and say that it was like, this person said that hope was full of dark entities. Janelle and Amy was filled with dark entities. That Jody was filled with dark entities, and that the Hope Interfaith Center was filled with dark entities. And I tell you, those words, and you can start crying, those words was mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I had my husband who picks me up when my legs are cut from underneath me. Mm-hmm. So he had to hear me use a few choice mechanical words myself that I cannot say. But so I think about how precious it is that I absolutely, because I was counting up the other day who is my circle of influence, and I have one space open, but none of the 4 people that I've had in my life that right now that are in my circle of influence, they don't cut me off at the legs. They don't cut me off. I mean, because I never felt that way with you, Renita. I just never felt that way. And so I would tell everyone to think about the mechanics of words, right? And how they work within our consciousness, even after we've said those to someone, because that's the vibrational frequency that enters into us, and we go like, oh my God.
Right.
And this is what I said to Paul. After 30 years of dedicating my life to peace, how could anybody say that?
Right.
So I would ask you to think about not only the mechanics that you let come into your life, but the mechanics of the power of the word that you take into and the 5 people that kind of hold you up are the 5 people that I would say never cuts you down, never takes your legs from underneath you.
Yeah. You know, Maya Angelou had a term, she called it, I think it was Tibet to Tibet. And it's basically picking a person to death. And she talked about how roosters, either roosters or chickens, like they pick the color red, and they will, if they have to take any chickens that have sores or have any wounds that show red, because the other chickens will peck them to death, right? And I think that like we as a culture don't often pay attention to our words and the language that we use that is violent. I think we said something about this. I was telling you about this, but we at the YWCA we're doing a broadcast at the end of the month about the language of racism and how people use language to weaponize race. And I think that I don't know if it's consciously, but there's got to be some part of, on some conscious level, when people are trying to when people are using words because they want to be powerful or they want to cut someone down on purpose to make themselves be higher or that kind of thing. And so I just curse the very root of any conversation about the Hope Interfaith Center, about Amy or Janelle, or about Hope or Jody being darkness. I just curse the very root of that. I just curse the very root of that, because there is life, there is love, there is laughter, there is good coming out of the Hope Interfaith Center. So it's interesting to me, again, when you have people that haven't taken the time to even get to know you. You have people repeating tropes that they don't even know. They don't even know the people who the trope or the thing that's being said is said about, but they're repeating it. And that is so damaging. And so when Hope and I would dive deep quickly, we would talk about just like how women just dagger each other to death, like just shank each other. And these are women that may be working in social justice. These are women that say that they're woke women, or these are people that say that they are, they believe in good and they believe in fairness and equality. And I'm like, you can't have both things. You can't be a good person and shank people. They cancel each other out in my mind. I'm just saying, like, you can't say to love people and, you know, and speak words that cause other people to be afraid of them. You can't say that you believe in love, that you're a person of love, and say things that actually desecrate the reputation of another person. Those things cancel each other out. And so I think that as a culture, in particular as a culture of women, we just need to become intentional in terms of using language that is only going to benefit other people. And it takes work to do that, because the culture that we live in particular with the reality TV, like, it is sending a different message. It's sending a message that says, you know what, anything goes. In particular, if I can look good, and because some people want to look good, but they don't have the desire to be good. And there is a difference between looking good and being good, because some people really just want to be free from what the awfulness that it feels to be said they're bad. So they don't really want to be good. They just want to be free from what it feels like to be thought of as bad. Those are different things.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Hope and I talk, we talk about things like that. Like, we try to wrap our heads around, well, what would make somebody say something like that? Or, well, what can we do about that? Well, how do you respond about that? You know what I mean? And sometimes we pray for the people, and sometimes we have a day where we're like, yeah, but not today, because today they're going to get a few choice words in the sanctity of this relationship, and then I'm going to ask for forgiveness tonight. How about that, right? And then what's true is I just can't even tell you the benefit or what it's like to just know somebody loves you like Hope loves. Like, everybody should have a friend in their life that feels as loved as Hope makes you feel loved. Like, everybody, at least one time before they die, needs to have one person in their life that is so fully and completely accepted of them with all of their flaws and all of their bad days and you know, their choice words and their missteps and their need to ask for forgiveness. Everybody should have one person that's going to say, yep, I forgive you, and it's okay, let's do the next thing. Like, that's thrown into the sea of forgetfulness, let's do the next thing. Like, everybody needs to have one of those, you know. And I do think that there are people that come into our lives that actually buttress up the capacity to be that way because of who they are. Like, they tell in us a desire to be a better version of ourselves. I only want people in my life that help me be better. I only want people in my life that bring me to a place of revealing the things that are still broken in me that need some work. And sometimes you can just watch people doing life, watch people just being themselves, and it gives you permission to live a higher kind of existence. Hope is like that, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the Hope Interfaith Center because of that. Yeah, and I think that that people I don't know what has happened in our culture except things like reality TV, but people are more mean than I can ever remember people being. And I'm sad about that. So I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry that you had to kind of feel that. And now we'll just continue to pray for retribution, really. Pray that the eyes of the people speaking those things that are not true, pray that they would be open, and pray that whatever is broken in them that would spread rumors like that would be healed.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, thank you. Thank you. So what do you think as we move forward and this whole changing world that we're in? You know, your friendship, our friendship helps navigate, you know, you help me navigate through life right now.
mm-hmm.
And I help you navigate, and Paul helps me navigate, and I help him navigate through life right now.
Mm-hmm.
What would you advise people right now during this change that we are in?
Mm-hmm.
What is the best navigators that you have found besides friendships?
I do think quiet time and knowing yourself, because at the end of the day, like, we're only responsible for ourselves. And so just really knowing yourself, like like I can remember times in me developing just as a woman where I kind of looked around and said, who was that mass marauder? Because when it got really hot, like the things that I said or the way I was being was different than I saw myself. So I had to be honest with myself about who showed up. And so then I had to say, you know what, I need to do something different, and I need to fix what's broken that would allow that kind of person who is consistent and who I say I want to be ever show up, right? Like I would have said in probably the last 10 years, there's really never a time just to be mean to people. Like I can't understand. There's not a single reason that you should just be mean to people. Like you can hold people accountable. People can get consequences, with the law in terms of misdeed or lawful deeds and that kind of thing. But just to be mean, I can't think of a single reason why it would be okay to just be mean to people. And I haven't always been that way because I didn't always see myself being mean. But I recognize now that there were times when I felt fully justified in saying words that were mean or being in a way that was actually pretty mean. And it took me getting wiser and having relationships where I saw what pure love was like and what pure kindness was like and what pure forgiveness was like, then to give me permission to say, yep, I'm stopping that because that's not who I want to be, right? And I think that people have got to get education. Like I read some things, my son showed me some things this weekend and they would like draw. And I was like, are they pretending to believe that, or is that what they really believe? Have you ever seen stuff and you're like, what in the world? And so there is misinformation that is going around right now. And because people are wide open because of their emotions and the nerves that have been struck because of watching the murder of another human being on TV and have it talked about incessantly, and the fear that comes from not knowing if you're going to catch a virus that could end badly. Like all of those things create this perfect storm for people to hold on to something that makes the world that they exist in or the space that they inhabit seem manageable. And if you've been drinking poison, then it's easy for then that poison to expand and for you to think then that poison is the way to go. It's not. It is not. Like I guarantee you that if you can educate yourself with real truth, if you can read wholesome literature, if you can look at, not, I don't mean this in a Pollyanna way, but look at the bright side of things, like it will go a long way to quiet down the fear, the false evidence that appears rear that makes you react in ways that are inconsistent with the best version of yourself. And so like during this time, it's been actually quite funny. I'm like, am I okay? Because I haven't been, like, some people are just frying out and I'm looking around like, should I be more worried? And I don't think so. I think that it's because I've kind of grounded myself in some realities and some acceptance. Like I accepted for a long time, like, you know what? I may not see my children until this whole thing blows over. I have made a decision that I'm not willing to compromise the people that I work with, because I have this longing to see my children, and until we got further along and there was enough information that said, you know what, you're probably safe if you do this, 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 and this, I kind of just stayed at home. And I think that, so educating ourselves is something that we can do. Talk to people who have had the experiences and can verify information that you might get that's warped. I don't know how to say that differently, because everybody's experience is the same. And I don't want to be said to speak for the whole African-American race. I don't. I speak for me. And of course, there are some things that are consistent across people of color or Black people. But I can only speak as an expert on my own story. What are some other things that I'm doing? Like, I do try to find reliable sources to get my information from. And I do process with wise people. Scripture says, a wise man has many counselors, and so a person that's wise, they have many counselors, and they're not any counselors, they're wise counselors. That's inferred, right? The inference is they have many wise counselors, many people that they talk things to process things, sometimes just so that they can just process out loud so they can get to the end of where they need to get, but they can't do it in their own head. So they have different counselors or different individuals that they're talking things through. The wisdom kind of comes comes out of there, and then you will know it. It's often you will know, ding, like, okay, that's it, right? I actually have an instrument that is very, very useful, and it has worked for me for many, many years, and it's called sodas. And so sodas really is like, you take the situation and you just say everything you can about the situation. And then you look at the options that you have in terms of what you're responsible for and the choices that you have related to that. And then you look at the disadvantages, what could possibly happen that's a disadvantage, what could possibly happen that's an advantage. And typically the solution or the right thing is the thing that has the most advantages and the fewest disadvantages. You know that, you're familiar with that from our training. Yeah, so drink a lot of sodas. Like, this is a hard time for us, and we can't leave it to chance. So we have to be being intentional and just using instruments that help us just like to get out of that fear kind of place where our minds are racing and we're seeing stuff that's not there. Do you know what I mean? Because you just make bad decisions when you're not operating out of an intelligent kind of informed kind of mindset, you know. And I think that people who use the power they have, use that violence associated with the power that they have because they want things so badly and they don't think they can get it honorably. Like, we want to stay away from that kind of information, because that kind of information kills people. Like, it literally will result in people's lives being taken. And even if it's not a physical death, sometimes it's people's reputations that are being just annihilated, you know? And just endeavor to be the best version of yourself, because we are either yeah, that, like, most things are like, it's either this or it's that. It's not, oh, it's almost this and a little bit of this, and then you can be all the way over here. It's not like these grades, right? I read something the other day that said basically you're either racist or anti-racist, and I was like, I had never heard that before. And I was like, well, I guess you can't be halfway racist or halfway do you know what I mean? You're either racist or you're anti-racist. So you got to make a decision. And I love those kind of things where you have to just draw a line in the sand and recognize that you're going to have some in this camp and some in this camp, and choose which camp that you want to be in.
I'm going to tell a story that Renita did a TED Talk, and one of the pieces in her TED Talk that she gave was, it made an imprint on me, that she was in the elevator and some groovy music came on, and she was in the elevator kind of dancing, and how she said in the TED Talk, I just felt like I was just being the very best me I could possibly be in this unbridled energy. And then the doors of the elevator opened up and I stopped, and then I walked off the elevator. And she challenged herself to think, like, what happened between when the doors were closed and she was being this unbridled, holy, vivacious, glittering, sparkling energy, and then the doors opened up and you walked off. And you said that, you know, what happened when you crossed over that? So can you answer that now? I know that's a hard answer to give, but what is that within us?
No, and I think it's fear. I think it's afraid of showing up in the most holy display of yourself and having people say that there's something wrong with it. So instead, we present ourselves in the version that we think people are going to be okay with. You know, and sometimes that is following like the norms and that kind of thing. And I'm not saying that you're supposed to be a live wire in every space you're in. You're supposed to tear up stuff. I'm not saying be a free radical. I'm saying just be mindful of what the best version of yourself is in every single arena. And usually that is being a person of integrity. If you're happy, be happy. You know, I've had people tell me that there's something wrong with me because because I'm happy. I'm like, why in the world would there be something wrong with me because I'm happy? You know, and I think the darkness in other people really wants to make you stop shining so that they feel okay, because it's such a contrast between your light and their darkness, right? But I remember that really well. I remember the day, and I made a big decision when that night after I reflected on it, because it was striking to me also. And I recognized like what was wrong with me being happy and dancing and singing. was practicing my moves in the elevator, and there's a happy that comes out when I'm in that place, right? And then I straightened up and I kind of got myself together and I went in there. Now, so we know that there are mores and there are expectations, and there are certain places where you're supposed to do X, Y, and Z, and certain places where you're supposed to do A, B, C, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you change so that you don't so your very presence doesn't offend somebody. Like, the reality is if their problem, if your very presence and your most holy kind of version of yourself shows up and they have a problem with it, like, they're the ones with the problem. You know, my oldest son said something to me many, many years ago. He's a high schooler then, so it's probably 15, he's 30 now. So yeah, maybe 15 or so years ago. And he said, because I used to get on him all the time because he just didn't care. He would take clean clothes out of the clothes basket and put them on so they'd be wrinkled and stuff. And I'd be like, babe, like, why are you going out in wrinkled clothes? He's like, Mom, my clothes are clean. I took a shower. He was like, anybody that has a problem with how my clothes look, he said, it's their problem. Like, and he said it just like it's plain, just like Mom, like, kind of like, what are you using your energy about my, you know? And I was like, people are going to laugh at you and people are going to say this and rah, rah, rah. And he just looked at me and was like, Mom, my clothes are clean, you know? And he's like, anybody that has a problem with it, it's their problem. And I was just like, what wisdom in this young man, you know, like, where did he get it from? Because I didn't feel like I had that wisdom. But I think that we're so afraid. We've given away our power. We've given away our power on so many levels. And I talk about the difference between little girls and adult girls, right? Like, when we're adult girls, like, we cease to spin around like the ballerina, right, Hope? We cease to giggle out loud. Like, we stopped doing some of the things that really just made you feel happy and just alive. We stopped doing all of those things because we're afraid of what people are going to say about that. And the truth is, people are going to say something about this. Some people are going to say something about it. You know what? Do it anyway. Like, do the thing that makes you feel like, I am engaged, I am alive, I am the best version of myself. And you will have more fruit from that than you ever will closing down like this because the rainy day, you know, the rainy people or the Debbie Downers or the, you know, sad Sallies or whoever they are trying to get you to be more like them. They just want to pull you out of your happy and your exuberance and your beauty and make you be more like them, because misery loves company. We know that.
Yeah.
You know, like, Hope will send messages like, hello, beautiful. What did she say? She has on her message right now. This is, you've reached the Hope, the phone of the Hope. And she says,
the virus.
Catch the virus of love. You're going to catch the virus of love. And I just, you know, and it makes me go, I'm just like, you know, like, I want to give that kind of life. I want for people to hear my voice and then make them smile. I want people to stand up straighter because they felt empowered, because they are reminded of something that they felt when they were in my presence the last time. And if I don't think like that anymore, it's in me like that, right? And I have to be careful when I'm in environments that I start like this, and by the end of the day, I go home like this. And I'm like, yeah, that's no good for me over a long period of time. But I'm responsible for noticing that and then making a difference. And I have a couple of choices. I can change the environment or I can leave the environment, right? So or I could stay in the environment. So that's actually three different choices, right? I could stay there and then be broke down like this all the time. I'm like, yeah, I'm too old to be broke down like that. Or I can kind of spend the energy that it takes to kind of change the environment so more people are erect like this. Or I can simply go to an environment and find an environment where people are erect like this, right? But I tell you, changing gets old, you know? And so I'm working right now. You had asked me early, what I was doing right now, and I'm the CEO of the YWCA of Greater Green Bay, and it's a great time to be a part of the YWCA. And we're doing some things that just make me happy, that make me just happy. I was at an event for a release of a publication from another organization, and at the end of the time, a lady was sitting at the table that I was at, and she got up and she walked over to me. She said, "Do you have a second?" I said, "Sure." And so I sat down and we talked, and she said, "I don't think you know me." She said, "I came to a conference you guys did last year." And she said, "I just wanted you to know," she said, "in the last 10 years, she said that conference has been the most impactful thing in my life." And I was like, "What?" And she said, "I sat in one of the sessions," and she said, "it impacted me so deeply." She said, "I went home and I did da 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 da," and I was like, "Wow." I said, "Thank you so much for taking this time to just share that with me." And I say that because there are 3 people involved in that, right? Her making the decision to stop me and tell me about it. And then, of course, the session leader that was in the session that had that impact on her life. So that's 3 people, like similarly, kind of like that had an involvement with that. But how many people have been touched because now she is doing that list of things that she decided to do out of that? And then for the life that it gave those people, how many people are being touched out of that? Like, people don't know how much they matter. And we're in a culture that has told us that we're supposed to be embarrassed about knowing that we matter, that we're supposed to shrink back because it's some kind of way too prideful, or is something wrong with just showing up and being like, "I've got this river of life flowing out of me." And just giggling and just giggling, and you know what I mean? Like, there's just so much. It's life-giving. Laughter does do a heart good, like a merry medicine, and if we had more laughter, then people wouldn't be so grumpy all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, "Oh, those folks are grumpy." And I'm just like, you know what? I know what it feels like to be grumpy, so I'm not poo-pooing anybody. But I am saying that we get to choose,
I'm going to throw this out. Are there any questions that you would like to ask me and or Renita about dive deep quickly in friendship, dive deep quickly and dare to connect with other women that are different than you are? And you might get turned down. I mean, Renita could have turned me down. And Kathy Brennan's on there too. I keep on saying that Kathy, because she was on our Zoom the other day, and comes from a Christian background, and dearest Renita coming from a Baptist background, and even Trish really coming from your background of Catholicism. Either one of you could have thrown garlic over your necks and say, "Stay away, stay away, stay away." But none of you have done that. And I could have said, "Well, you're too tight and you're too like this." So what has happened in allowing that mixture of open-heartedness and open-mindedness can bring you into a really, really wonderful place. So does anybody have a question about nurturing friendships, getting friendships?
Hey, Hope, it's Letha.
Hi, Letha. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Hi, Renita.
Hi.
Thank you for what you said earlier about you can't create positive energy and then communicate negative messages and expect all that to balance itself out because they don't equal each other. I love that. Thank you. The question I had for both of you is, have you always had people like each other in your life through all the phases of your life? And if you didn't, how did you make it through those phases while you were making space for a wonderful woman to come into your life?
Good question.
That's a great question.
You want to go first, Renita?
Yes. No, I didn't, because I don't think that I was at that place because I was being negative or not fully expressed. And so what I was bringing into me were like-minded people. And so it was again until I got healthy that then that kind of energy came into my life. And so I didn't even know what I didn't know when I didn't have people that were positive and stuff in my life. I probably was like, what's wrong with them? What's the matter with them? What, there's nobody can be that happy, you know? And so until I got well and came to an understanding of what real happy was, you know, I probably was one of those kind of people that spoke poorly of people that were happy. How about you, Hope?
I would agree. When I first started out, you know, I was the little fat dumb girl in school. I mean, really. And we had 3 categories: the stupid little fat dumb girls, and then the medium girls, and then the really beautiful girls. And so I stayed in that category because I think that life put me in that category. And I believed I was in that category. And so I did feel an emptiness. Even like when I went through my first marriage, there was such an emptiness. And he put me in a category of the good little woman, and the good little woman does this, and the good little woman, and so the good little woman did that. And I wasn't very little, but I moved into that good little woman role. And then something happened to me after my son died. It was the most horrific thing, but it was the most powerful thing in my life. And although it took me to, you know, to hell and back, getting over that process of losing a son, of losing a child, and seeing someone die at this, and he was like a vivacious little kid, you know, when he died. And so something broke the camel's back, where I can remember my husband said something after the funeral. And I looked at my daughter. I got a wicker basket. I filled my clothes. I put her clothes, put the most precious thing I had in my life in the back seat, took her clothes, and that's all I got. I left. And after that, I knew something just broke. You know, that I don't care about anything. All I care about is my life and this little girl's life in the back seat of my car. And I was not going to raise her in any way, shape, or form to believe that she was less than because she was a female. Something broke, and I knew that I had to be a role model for her. And then I started cultivating friendships after that. Mm-hmm. And I did go to therapy. I kept on telling Paul, you can never go into politics, because at the Mankato Clinic, mental health care clinic, and a file like this on me, because I would go to counselor because I wanted to be healthy. And everyone's heard this story. I met Diana Gabriel, and Diana Gabriel says, Janice, you are not broken. You are not broken. You just don't remember who you are. She was the first woman who looked me in the face and said, Janice, you are not broken. My husband was the first man who looked me in the face and said, I always get this wrong, Paul, you're a diamond in the rough. Was that it? You're on mute. You're on mute. Yes, dear. What did you say?
Well, it had more to do with you act like you're a lump of coal, but you're going to be a diamond someday.
Yeah, yeah.
Diamond in the rough, yeah.
Again, the mechanics of the word that was placed in my consciousness just made me believe that I deserve it. And I want the whole cake. Mm-hmm. And so now I cultivate women in my life, as well as men if I can meet them. I haven't met very many, quite frankly, but I've met so many dynamic, and I read about women's empowerment and women's worth, and that I thought, you know, my worth is not in my waistline. My worth is not in my education. My worth is not in even what I do. My worth is in my heart, and that I am of worth.
Right.
And so that's when I started cultivating. So my friendships have changed and changed and changed, because if they did not grow on that level, again, I love the statement, I namaste and walk away. It isn't that I don't judge them. I just namaste and walk away, because I want to be with dynamic, powerful women of all colors, all shapes, all sizes, all talents, all religions, all philosophies, because my life has been incredibly enriched by having this elixir of women in my life. I don't know, did that answer it?
That was perfect. Thank you.
So how are you doing, Latha, in your friendship stuff, in your friendship hunt?
Yeah, I think I'm in an interesting place in my life, because this soul fulfilling friendship that you're talking about, I've experienced it, and then now I'm in a place where you know, those things have found their culmination, and I'm in a new place where there's space for new people to come. And there's something so amazing about maturing in life, where you can be content with the space and not just want to fill it up.
Yes.
And that's where I am right now. And I can look at that as exciting instead of as empty.
Wow, that's great. Space versus empty.
Yeah.
Love it.
I'm looking forward to friendships like what you're talking about again, probably at the next level, because we all evolve at different places, and I was grateful for the friendships while they were there, and I'm looking forward to the new ones, and I'm grateful for the space that's here right now. So
That's nice.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else have a question? Comment?
Am I the only guy here today?
You are the only guy usually, honey.
I see those phone numbers, you know, that are kind of anonymous. I thought maybe there's a guy there. Okay, just wondering.
So what do you think about friendships, about male friendships?
You know, I grew up bullied. Didn't have, but I had some pretty good friends in high school. But my first wife was, God bless her, kind of an OCD, very suspicious about everyone. Everyone was out to get you. So trust and OCD, compulsive stuff. We weren't a good match. It was ADD meets OCD. But and then I had sleep disorders, and I was so tired and had so much to do that I didn't have time for men friends. And when she left me in 1980, I really didn't have a single man friend. I had dozens of professional acquaintances. I had guys I could call to, you know, go do something somehow tied to work. But as far as a guy to ride motorcycle with or bum around with or just go have a cup of coffee with, I didn't have confidence to ask anybody. So I don't think my male friendship self-esteem was pretty bad. And I got into a counseling program, a 10-week divorce seminar, actually. That's where I met Janice, frankly, right after my divorce. And I learned right away that I don't want a Band-Aid relationship. I could have without the knowledge I learned in those 10 weeks, 30 hours, I could have very easily stumbled into the first Gaga thing and been remarried and back in the frying pan instantly. And so that was an opportunity. And then I happened to run into Chuck Lofi. He was the Jungian, Carl Jung guy at MSU. And I started taking those classes in Jungian psychology and philosophy. And it just really wowed me. And of course, then he led me into the male journey, the man's journey in the, and that was a very good thing. In fact, I have a story I have to tell you about Janice here. when we met in the divorce seminar.
God, he always says
She,
that story.
She was a Catholic, born Catholic, 13 years of Catholic school, K-12. And I had grown up Catholic, but I had left the church, and I wouldn't call myself an atheist, but I was really an agnostic. So when my world crashed around me after that marriage, I was kind of struggling, and I had studying the Jungian thing, and in college, despite being an ag major, I read a lot of philosophy. Guys like Kierkegaard, and Nietzsche, and Sartre, and many of those are pretty, Bertrand Russell, are pretty familiar with to me. Not too many other farm guys, though. And so I didn't have anybody to talk to about that stuff till I hit Chuck Lofi at MSU. And I took every class he had, and then I did personal counseling with him too. So I meet Janice, and I'm in this, and somehow it comes up, and she says, "Where are you?" I said, "Well, I'm kind of on my spiritual journey." And she says, "Now, ready? What's a journey?"
No, I said, what? What do you mean by your spiritual journey?
Yeah, like, what's a journey? This guy's really weird. So things have changed a lot since then. I love it. Yeah. But what I did, we married, we met, I tried to delay the marriage, but she set time limits. Then we had all these kids, and I still didn't have time for friends. And at some point, she challenged me to develop men friendships. And at that point, I looked at who would I want for a friend, and I deliberately started looking for a couple of men friends. And one of my man friends was very different from me politically, but we had some common interests, and Janice was not real impressed with him. But that's kind of where I learned some of my friend skills. And then I got better friends. I've stumbled into a group of Panera, motorcycle, philosopher guys. No one ever talks sports, ever. No one cares about it. It's the first group I've ever been in, but we're all obsessed with how things work and social justice and the environment and the world, and we like motorcycles too. So, and if someone has a mechanical problem, everybody say, "Well, where's it at?" "Oh, it's a problem at the boiler at the something church." "Well, let's go look." And we all go down there and we try to figure it out. So, and that group has been a delight of my life. And I always found it hard to ask guys to help me with things. It's so easy now to do that after I practiced it. And now I've gotten to the point where I worked with had coffee occasionally 30 years ago in the 1980s and 90s with a brilliant man at South Central College who left there and went into private entrepreneurship and developed a global company. And he's now retired. And I started watching his posts on Facebook. And I called him one day and said, "I'd like to have coffee with you." And we meet for tea at the Curiosity Tea House now and then, but then it closed. So now we're going to start having tea outside. But what I found exciting is that I'm busier than most of my friends. Most of them will look at my phone, Paul, we've never seen a calendar like yours. And, they'll tell me, "You've got to practice retiring." So I try. One of them's offered to be my sponsor for WA, that's Workaholics Anonymous. But I will miss Panera coffee for a week or so. And somebody will say, "Paul, where are you? We miss you." Holy shit, that is the neatest thing in the world. I've never had that in my life before. And my life is rich with friends. One of the challenges in friendship is couple friendships. Janice and I struggle to find common couple friends because of different interests and different timing. Almost everything we do and places we go, we drive in separate cars because we're all coming and going from somewhere and dropping off a grandkid or picking up a grandkid, and we can't even go on a date in the same car hardly. So we're working on that and we're doing better. But we've had a friend of mine that I taught with in the 70s and 80s. And we just have a great couple friendship with them. They've always had lots of couple friends. Unfortunately, all of their couple friends have a lot of paradigm paralysis. And my friend is more like me, and he's so disappointed he can't talk about any of the things he likes to talk to with those folks anymore. Religion, politics, are all taboo areas. So we just, the four of us can do it now. So we have a lot of fun.
Which we're cultivating and nurturing.
Yeah, yeah.
We're almost getting to, thanks, Paul, for joining us. You're my man. Anybody else have a question, a comment at all for Renita? Hey, Janelle. Yeah, I was just, what was that comment you gave to me? I love that quote. When we had our business meeting.
Oh yeah, I loved it too. So we got a Peloton bike, and my instructor on the Peloton bike is 10 out of 10, and I love her wisdom and inspiration that she gives in her classes. And the last class I rode in, she goes, "A queen fixes another queen's crown when it's crooked without telling her that it's crooked."
Oh, wow.
Love that.
Yeah, that's that safety, like, and that queen doesn't bristle at all because she knows that there's no ill intent and that she can trust her, that she's safe. Isn't that beautiful?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's Robin Arzon, for those of you that know who the Peloton people are. But oh my gosh, yeah. So Renita, I just want to say thank you so much too, because like this has helped, just hearing how you talk about just like how, you know, Hope and everyone, like us at the Hope Interfaith Center, were like had those things said about us, like that really helped. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. So yeah, your words of wisdom are much appreciated and so grateful. So thank you. And you too, Hope. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Cougar.
Hope, can I read something for you? And I don't, did you send, do you remember you sent me the Reason Season Lifetime?
Yeah, I think so.
Do I have time to read that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's how we'll finish up. I love that.
Okay. And so I kept asking Hope, like, Hope, where's the Reason Season Lifetime come from? And finally she sent me this, and it says, Reason Season Lifetime. People always come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. When you figure out which it is, you know exactly what to do. When someone is in your life for a reason, it is usually to meet a need you have expressed outwardly or inwardly. They have come to assist you through a difficulty or to provide you with guidance and support, to aid you physically, emotionally, or even spiritually. They may seem like a godsend to you, and they are. They are there for the reason you need them to be. Then, without any wrongdoing on your part or at an inconvenient time, this person will say or do something to bring the relationship to an end. Sometimes they die, sometimes they just walk away, sometimes they act up and force you to take a stand. What we must realize is that our need has been met, our desire fulfilled, their work is done. The prayer you sent up has been answered, and it is now time to move on. When people come into your life for a season, it's because your turn has come to share, grow, or learn. They may bring you an experience of peace or make you laugh. They may teach you something you have never done. They usually give you an unbelievable amount of joy. Believe it, it's real, but only for a season. And like spring turns to summer and summer to fall, the season eventually ends. Lifetime relationships teach you lifetime lessons. Those things you must build upon in order to have a solid emotional foundation. Your job is to accept the lesson, love the person anyway, and put what you have learned to use in all other relationships and arenas in your life. It is said that love is blind, but friendship is clairvoyant. Thank you for being a part of my life, whether you were a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Author unknown.
Great ending. Great ending. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're so welcome. Thank you for giving it to me. Yes, yes.
Yes.
I love you.
I love you too. I love you too. Thank you, everybody, for taking time out with us on Zoom Cafe on Monday, this coming Monday. So next Thursday, we're going to have the last of our Untamed Book Study Club, where Janelle and Amy are going to be speaking at that. And so if you are interested in joining our online spiritual community, which will support you, it's a small amount. It's $18 a month. It's still going to be on, I think, Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's not going to be on Mondays anymore, because Monday is supposed to be my sacred time with Pa. So, so it's going to be on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it'll be just as dynamic as these last 3.5 months have been. And I love you all so dearly, and you have just a fabulous, fabulous rest of the night. And happy solstice as we celebrate the summer. So namaste, namaste. Thank you, Renita.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you all. See you later.
I love you.
Love you too.
Love you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.